So hi, welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with.
And I'm Bob James with the band Silent Theory.
And we have some questions to say about the upcoming album. Tell us how it ends. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
So far it's been pretty great. We've been kind of trickling out some releases off the album. Just kind of get people excited about it, and we're excited about the music, so we're always happy to share it. But so far it's been pretty positive. It's gonna be a fun album because it's probably the heaviest music we've written, but it's still, I think, very definitively Silent Theory. Like, it's still got those melodies and still got those really, salient lyrics and things like that. So it'll be fun to see people be able to enjoy the entire collection.
Hell yeah. The response so far has seemed great, and the album fucking rips.
Yes, it's incredible.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course.
Of course. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
A little. I mean, I know there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing an album, and some people like kind of start with a theme or a concept, or sometimes even a name, and kind of build around that. We always like to try and just write songs from wherever they're coming from at that time, and just kind of towards the end then kind of come up with a title that encapsulates those. So like our first album, Delusions, like inadvertently all the songs just kind of had this mental health kind of like addiction kind of thing to them. And then Hunter Be Hunted was just a little bit more of like a little more aggressive, and just kind of had some pointed lyrics and things like that. So with this one, it actually is the title of one of the songs on the album. We're releasing a video for that here in the next couple days as well. And it was one of those where we kind of felt like it encapsulated the mood of the album, of just like, one of those like, we're here now. Okay, so what's next? Like, what is your thoughts and your vision on like how does this end? Whatever that is, whether that's a relationship, the world, God forbid, whatever it is, it's just kind of like, okay, you seem to have all the answers. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, and I get that like eerie kind of vibe from the cover art. Was that kind of what you guys were going for?
A little bit. I mean, we're very lucky to have Scott in the band, who, aside from being lead guitar, and writing a lot of the music, Scott also is a graphic designer by trade. And so, he was doing a lot of different like inspiration kind of searching. And honestly, this one kind of came out of a little bit of just like punching things into like AI generation and like just seeing what that came up with. And then like he was able to like use some inspiration from those kind of things to kind of put together this kind of, we had one option that was a little bit more, the image was super cool. And it was a little bit more in line with like, it kind of looked like a atomic bomb explosion stuff with somebody in a lawn chair, just kind of like, and that one seemed a little bit too pointed, little not as much positivity as there could potentially be in there. So we went with something that was just a little bit more like, a lot of heavy like black and gray kind of tones. And then I don't know, I feel like Birds on a Wire is always a classic imagery, and selfishly it kind of makes me think about the old days of like Thursday and some of those early 2000s bands.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
But yeah, it was really just kind of like an amalgamation of just like what we thought looked cool in relation to the album.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Fuck yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, so I mean, we've tried to do a bunch of different ways, and ironically, we're kind of like, I was watching a few guys' interviews yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching the interview with Johnny from Highly Suspect, and our process is kind of going a little bit reverse of their process they did for their last album. Because our album Delusions, we were in between singers when we wrote most of those songs, and so a lot of those we had been working on the music for several years, just kind of playing them amongst ourselves with no, we'd bring in somebody to try him out as a singer, and they kind of write some lyrics, and so we had a bunch of different versions that honestly a lot of them were not very good. And so when we met Dakota, he had a lot of songs that he was able to just start like ripping on lyrics. And then Hunter Be Hunted was definitely a little bit kind of remote. Like there was still like we'd have some ideas and would collate those and kind of pass them back and forth over Messenger and things like that. And then we get together and kind of like refine them and kind of hash them out. And we've always done things ourselves. We've always done things in the way that we thought made sense. And so with this album, we were really wanting to not be stagnant and keep writing the same songs. And so we were really trying to reach out to people who, are also writing songs and doing all these other things. And so we actually did a few co-writes on this album,
Mhm.
and really just kind of like looking at, different people's processes and stuff and how they write songs and how they approach it and stuff. And so, we, like I said, we do have a few co-writes on this album, which, have turned out to be awesome. So getting a chance to work with some really great songwriters, um, some of it we did one song with a group out of Nashville. That's what they do, is they're songwriters. And so that was kind of an interesting experience. And then we've also worked with a couple people who are also in bands and write songs for their own band and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so this process was a little different. We still wrote a majority of the music. There was a couple songs where, we were kind of stuck on ideas, and we, reached out to people who had like, a snippet or something. We're like, okay, that was a really great starting point. We were able to build off of that one.
Mm.
But we were also recorded in a completely different scenario. Our first two albums we recorded at the same studio with the same guy who mixed, mastered, and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And Delusions, I think, sounded great. Hunter B. Hunted, the final product, like the songs never really got a fair shake in some regards because the mixing and mastering was honestly kind of terrible. But this album, we, started working with a new producer. His name's Chris Dawson. He used to be in Seasons After, and he's been in a couple other bands. But he's kind of like one of the guys right now because he's been working with, all kinds of bands, doing, recording and doing mixing and stuff like that. But so we worked with him, and he kind of helped us get a little bit more of that like heavier, beefier feel. And kind of like there's a few times where he, the final product I think is good because he pushed us to like go a little bit heavier. Like he's like, I think you could do this better, and was just trying to push us to be a little bit like out of our comfort zone, which was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think in total the writing has evolved, and I think we learned a lot of the things like this that we're already excited to start writing like the next album.
Hell yeah. That's
wonderful
how
to
you know
hear.
the process was good.
Mhm.
Co-writing, was this like the first time the band had kind of really experimented with co-writing?
Yes.
Oh.
So outside of like, when you get into a studio, like you could have a song that you think is 100% finished, you get in there, and I'm sure you could always put your foot down and be like, no, this is the song we're recording. But like
Mm.
part of the reason you like pay producers and engineers and stuff like that have been around is like sometimes you need that outside opinion. Is like, this is really good, but if you just like tweak this thing or add this harmony, like so outside of that kind of stuff, we've always, written our own songs like 100% across the board. And so this was definitely a new experience, and it's kind of hard to let go of the reins sometimes, but then like you start talking with some of these people and you're like, oh, okay, like this is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God damn it.
there's a reason why those people write songs for a living. They
Yeah.
just shit out good music. But was there like any sort of nervousness or anxiety of like bringing other people into the process? Obviously, producers in the past, that's just how it works in the studio. But when just mainly songwriting, was there any sort of nervousness bringing other people in?
There is, I mean, I don't think that we're like so unique. Like, there's some bands like Disturbed or somebody like that. Like you hear that, like that is Disturbed. No, you can't take it any other way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're that like unique or have like that kind of niche of a sound, but like there are certain aspects to our music that we didn't want to lose because, there's a reason people have enjoyed listening to us. And so we wanted to make sure that we held on to like a lot of that kind of spirit and stuff like that. And so those were definitely conversations we had when we entered some of those, relationships with people about songwriting is, kind of not losing our ness, if you will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Got it. So what song off the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Oh man, so I think my favorite, at least so far, to play live, has got to be Made Me This Way. It is hands down probably the heaviest song we've played, and so like it's rhythmically it's a little challenging, but like for the most part, like it's not a super difficult song to play, and so like live you can really kind of like move around a lot more, and I don't know, it's just really kind of gets me going.
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
And then let's see, his song that took the longest to write. I don't know, because like there's definitely some that like we fiddle around with music quite a lot. We go back and forth, and I'm trying to remember. Um, well, we had a song that was honestly a little controversial on the album. It's called. We ended up titling it "The Cracks," and it's weird and funky, and like I love it for all those reasons. There are some reasons where we were like, I don't know. But that was definitely a song that like because it's weird and funky, we went through probably like 30 different iterations of different things where we're like, well, maybe we'll try this one. And we're like, I don't know, it's kind of cool, but I also don't love it. At one point we got a little loopy, and Dawson, who was recording for us, like was just throwing out weird suggestions like now make a pig noise and so he has like this whole weird like mix where he's like, I'm just gonna like secretly release this. I'm like, please don't.
Keep
Just like
that
this
up.
random like weird stuff. Yeah, I think that one like, and it finally came down to like I think we just need to lock this song in because we're kind of going off the rails here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my
definitely.
God. Sounds like you're having fun with it though.
Yeah, I mean you have to enjoy it because otherwise it sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Damn right.
Yeah, can't make the work too much like work, you know.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
We definitely always do the shuffle around. Because especially like this last album, Dawson lives in Wichita, Kansas, and we're all in like Idaho and Washington and stuff like that. Um, and so we would basically fly out for a week and record like 3 to 5 songs or something like that with Dawson. And so we ended up going out to his place like I think like 4 times or something like that to record songs for this album. Um, and so it was never a very conscious like, okay, well, this one's gonna be we're gonna record these in order or anything like that.
Mhm.
We once we got them, got rough mixes of all of them, we kind of went back and kind of listened through to make sure that I mean, we're not following any of the old method where like I know record labels in the past would be like, okay, track 3 is going to be your single, track 7 is your second single. Yeah, that we're not doing that kind of stuff, but we're very much album people. Like I grew up loving to listen to albums front to back, and there's a lot of bands that I'll hear a song on the radio and then like my brain wants to hear the next song on the album.
Yeah.
Um, and so we really try and look at it like kind of as a whole project and like make sure that there's at least some flow to it. So, there's not like just a dead drop in the middle where we have like 3 slow songs and then just a kick in the teeth like back. So
Yeah.
trying to have some flow to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Makes sense. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating the record?
This one, we honestly have been kind of struggling with, like, we've been doing this for a really long time. We've been playing as Silent Theory since like November of 2009.
Goddamn.
So I mean, we've been cranking away and done a lot of things the hard way. Like, we've definitely set ourselves back, like doing what we thought was right rather than asking somebody. But like we're getting to a point where it feels like we're finally moving forward in a direction that we're happy with, and there's always going to be roadblocks, and so I think there's just a lot of frustration of this album, of just the business side of things, where it's like we have a lot of great people in our camp, and sometimes things just don't work, and you're just like, so I think that was a lot of the headspace for this was just like, we are trying so hard. We try to be nice people. We're trying to do all these things. Why can't we just break that next barrier? Like, we don't want to like just jump to the end, but like sometimes it feels like you just can't get that next foot forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do in the car with friends and talk with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I mean, I definitely would listen to this while working out or partying. I think a great first listen. I mean, I'm a big fan of headphones. I think earbuds have come a long way. Over ears are always going to have a better, like, kind of like rich sound. But
Damn right.
honestly, like, listen with your friends. If they don't like it, make them listen to it anyways.
Exactly.
But hopefully they'll find something they can like. Yeah, I mean, we really want the music to be as much community as possible.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. I love showing my friends that aren't into metal like what I'm listening to, and they don't want to be mean about it, so they try to find something, but it's like they're just saying to you to be nice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hilarious. So
For
this
sure.
This one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
That was a great question. And I should have been prepared for this because I watched a couple of your interviews.
You know what's coming.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would say heavy, angry, happy. Like,
Question mark?
like it's not all like super negative, but there are some like I don't know. It feels like you're just like forcing like this, like, you know what? I'm gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Mhm.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I think with a lot of our music, like it didn't necessarily start out this way at the beginning, but like we have kind of amassed a theme of like self-empowerment, whether that's dealing with addiction or like, problems with your home life or like good or bad, just dealing with stuff. And so I definitely think if there's one thing I could hope people take away from it is just like hopefully it gets them jazzed up enough to like take that next step for them, whatever that is.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Makes sense. So, are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
I think there's always a lot of like exhaustion that goes into writing an album. I mean, because whether you try to or not, you always end up putting a little bit of pressure on yourself. And then, especially traveling to a studio to do that. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that like by the end of it, there is a little bit of a temptation to just be like, check the box, it's good enough. Like, let's move on. And
Mhm.
so I think that's always a little bit of a struggle of just like, let's listen one more time and make sure it's exactly what we want because this is getting locked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I definitely think that that is always a little bit of the struggle of just like, because sometimes you're really excited about it. You're like, this is awesome. And you might like have overlooked something. And then, I mean, there's nothing worse than listening to your song after like everything is said and done. You can't change it. And you're like, oof, I wish we would have caught that like breath or, whatever. That's something that should have just been cleaned up.
Yeah. Gotcha. You mentioned like obviously with everything, any record, there's a little bit of pressure. So like, is there anything you do to kind of overcome that and keep yourself at ease when you're working on an album, or you just like you're in there and the pressure's off once the album's done?
I mean, I think we try and rotate and stuff like that because, Scott does a majority of the like recording for a lot of the guitars and stuff like that. Dakota does, vast majority of the vocals and stuff like that. And, just whenever somebody's in the recording, we don't like to have like a full room just because like it's kind of distracting, but we try and rotate to make sure that there's at least somebody else in there, one for just like moral support, but also just a little bit of feedback.
Mhm.
And then, just making sure that nobody's getting burnt out. So like take breaks whenever necessary. But like I know Dakota reads a lot while he's in the studio. He's wildly fascinated with things like space, and so a lot of times he'll just be reading like random articles on like some new planet that's been found or something. George honestly reads a lot of like fiction books, and George also smokes enough cigars for, he used to smoke cigars every day, and now he only smokes them like pretty much when we're at the studio, and so he'll just sit out back on the porch and chain smoke cigars reading books. So I definitely think that we each try and find like little things to keep ourselves sane.
Gotcha. And then you guys obviously lean on each other by like making sure someone else is there and giving each other space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not to say that like at this point we're all basically like 3 of us are brothers, and the rest of us are basically just there's a very family dynamic, and so like
Brothers by
it's not
association.
nice per se, but it's always in good fun or like with good intent. But
yeah. the brotherly love,
yeah, we can solve just about any argument by going to eat. So
yeah, exactly.
There you go. Damn right.
So for this question, why don't you picture you're on tour? You got to guess for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
I am a disgusting human being. So my regular snack is the pepperoni pizza combos
Okay.
and Sour Patch Kids, usually with soda or energy drink or something like that. Yeah, I don't know why. I really love the disgusting cheese things that are in those combos.
I could tell you right now, that's not the most disgusting thing we've heard. That's actually like I could respect that because you didn't say you didn't say like the fucking hot burger or like any of the infinite rolling hot dogs or anything like that. So
no, that's usually reserved for a special occasion, but
Ew.
No, it's funny because like combos are just one of those things that I only ever eat on road trips. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little special treat. Oh yeah. Wonderful. And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
oh, that is a great weird question.
Thank you.
I would have to say probably a pizza. One because we're all kind of fat and we eat a lot of carbs and things like that. Um, you can never really go wrong with pizza. And like
Yeah, right.
there's a lot of different ways you can do pizza right, wrong, or different. Every ingredient adds to the total outcome. So I think that is a great analogy.
Yeah, I'd say
I
so.
agree.
And for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
I think I'd probably keep it pretty simple. Like there is a temptation to do something like wildly outlandish and possibly like ethically unsound, some sort of like dangerous animal that you're not supposed to eat, but it's like, I'm kind of curious.
YOLO.
But I mean, really, I'd probably do something along the lines of just like a really nice ribeye, with like potatoes and that kind of stuff. And, if it was the last time, I'd probably go with a Manhattan just because I love all things whiskey and I could drink lots and lots of it. But a situation like that, you might as well top it off with something a little fancier looking and a nice, nice up glass.
All right.
Yep, damn right. And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Ooh, that is a good one. And I would really torn because there's a lot of great places in like through like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that. But I think I would probably go with like Middle Earth. Just go classic Lord of the Rings. Honestly, like a little bit nerdy. My wife and I went to New Zealand this last winter, and
Holy
we
shit.
went to Hobbiton, and I could stay there forever. It was a very delightful little place in the middle of nowhere.
Fuck yeah.
That's fucking
so
awesome.
fucking cool. It's like every time people bring up like Hobbiton, they're always like, yeah, I could just go there, but I mean, whatever. But you went. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's really wild.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. And I've asked the last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Favorite color? Black is not a color, but it makes up a vast majority of my wardrobe. But I think the safe answer is always going to be blue. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Not really. I mean, it comes and goes. My wife has tried to convince me that green should be my favorite color because she thinks I look good in green, but I don't see it. So,
well, she's always right.
Yeah.
All right. So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you guys mentioned, we have a new album coming out on September 13th. We have a new song and video getting released at that same time. For a song, there's a title track to the album called Tell Us How It Ends. And we are trying really hard to get some tour dates locked in. We got about half of them locked in. And so if you're interested in seeing us, we're trying to get on the road this fall, and then we're already trying to make plans for next spring. So if you go to silenttheory.com, you can see our tour schedule, you can see music videos, you can get links to all of our streaming channels, check out YouTube and Spotify, all that good stuff. And then because it matters and it makes our heart happy, give us that blue thumbs up everywhere you listen.
Hell yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Bob from Silent Theory, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.